Hello and welcome to the second column. The music you just heard was from our guest today, Abby Kincaid. Abby, welcome to the show.
Hello.
All right, Abby's a musician and a good friend of ours, and she's here to, she's going to promote her new album, which is...
The band's called Penny Relentless.
That's right.
And the album is called The Trial of Penny Relentless.
Which is
Volume 2, not Volume 1. Wow. Volume 2. Volume 1 was actually never released, but so there's just mystery.
Mystery and intrigue.
Like a whole past.
Will there be a prequel?
It's never been. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. All right.
Part negative one.
Part negative.
Do we have to get into integers?
I think
Integers
so,
now?
yes.
All right, very
Yes.
interesting. So Abby's a super talented musician here in Los Angeles, and we've seen her play. Carlos and I went and saw her play one time.
Yes.
That was
true.
a memorable night.
Oh, it was.
Remember that guy who kept yelling, Abby!
I heard Carlos, you got pretty drunk that night.
Carlos
You were
was
pretty
out
drunk.
of control.
I'm going to apologize for the way I acted. I was just.
Hey, drunkenness is encouraged at Penny Relentless shows.
It
always.
was, but I think I took it over.
Here's
a
the
little
two.
bit
Here's
too
the
much.
two highlights of the night. We're at the bar, and Carlos goes up to the. And was it you or Mark that ordered the infamous,
I think it was Mark.
It was Mark because our friend Mark was drinking with us too, and Mark goes up to the bartender and he goes, "I'll have a Jenna Jameson." And I think not 5 minutes later, a girl was just walking by, and Carlos just grabbed her by the arm and was like, "Hey."
Yeah.
That's a borderline
Very
sexual.
liquid courage.
You could
came out
have
that night.
gotten kicked out of the
Yeah.
club.
No, everybody liked me though.
I mean, there's two types of drunks. There's regular drunks, and then there's Argentinians that get drunk.
Oh, brother.
And the Argentinians that get drunk, beware.
Exactly. So all of which is to say, Abby's shows are a lot of fun, and so
Yes.
is her music.
It's very
it
crazy.
rocks hard. And it's
It
good.
does.
It brings out the worst in Carlos for
What?
sure.
No, come on.
So
That's
it's
the
good.
point of a rock show.
It's
Yeah.
a good time. So
Exactly.
we encourage you to check it out. So very good. So this week we have a special Valentine's Day column, which was written by my brother Dan, who is a hell of a writer.
Yes.
And he basically stepped in, and I'll read the editor's note for the column this week. This week, my brother Dan has volunteered to guest write the Joe Donatelli column. Like everything Dan writes, the column is raw, honest, and brutally funny. If you are easily offended by sexual content, then I suggest you skip this column and check out, and I provide a link for this on my website, Kitten Wars.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Kitten Wars is like, am I hot or not with kittens?
Oh.
And it's adorable. I know.
Hang in there.
Hang in there, kitty. If you'd rather have your mind and soul violated this Valentine's Day, read on. So if you want to read this column, if you haven't yet, go to joedonatelli.com and check it out. If you've read it already, you know that it is ripe for discussion.
If you dare to enter the darkness,
It is the darkness.
welcome to oblivion.
Danny is maybe my favorite dark humorist, dark writer.
You would lose your innocence.
You will lose your innocence anew.
Anew.
With Danny's writing. So and this is the part now where we go around and give our thoughts. I'll open things up because I usually don't get to do this. Usually it's my writing and I let you guys comment on it. But I will say that this guy talks about his childhood growing up in his parents and everything. And I have to say I can really relate to everything he wrote.
Really?
Yeah,
that you're his
about his
brother?
parents.
Oh.
Yeah, and the era and the whole thing. Although I will say this, I'm 6 years older than Danny, and he grew up. He was born during the Reagan administration. I was born during the Ford administration, so we had slightly different.
Jeez, really?
So I had to experience 4 years of Carter, and so
not good.
it was a slightly even more conservative
Yes.
time, if you can believe it, during my super uber formative years. So. Otherwise, I completely agree with everything he wrote about growing up Catholic and having parents who were just like mine. So I don't know, Carlos. Anything strike you off the bat?
Yeah, that struck me, the whole thing about the Catholic Church. You know, because I was actually I was educated in the private school. You know, and sex education was
Awkward.
it was very awkward. I remember one time, and they actually had to excuse all the boys
Yeah, I remember that.
out of the room.
They did that with us too.
And I was like, what's going on? What's the big deal?
That was the period movie.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was one class. I went to a Catholic grade school where we all had to leave, and then the
Yeah.
girls all had to leave. And I remember they showed us a slide of what man parts and woman parts looked like, but it was like an outline. It wasn't actual people or anything. It was
No.
just a like a
Like a
shadow.
drawing, right,
Yeah, it was like a shadow of a penis or something. I was like, I got nothing.
Yeah, no.
from
It's
that.
like a Ken doll.
It's like if if
Yeah,
I
like
ever wanna-
nothing in between.
Exactly. The only thing I was qualified to make love to up until I was 16 was the shadow of a woman,
Oh.
because I was the only way I would
Yeah.
know where anything was. Otherwise, I was just completely befuddled.
I remember one time they even showed us a picture of a woman giving birth, and that
Wow.
scared the hell out of everybody. Like that was like the anti-sex thing. You're
Right.
like, no
That's
way.
a good idea.
You know, that
It is
really
a very
that
good
scared
idea.
me straight. for a little bit, but it's carrying me straight.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So I don't know, Abby. Did anything jump off from you from first impressions?
The main thing, my parents they're kind of born again Catholics. I was not raised Catholic, but they're now Catholic, and I'm very thankful that I was not raised Catholic after reading this.
Lucky you.
Good for you.
So,
Abby.
yeah, I'm Protestant.
I would believe
Protestant.
I can honestly
really?
Catholic.
I can honestly say that you not being raised Catholic, you were saved.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel it.
That's
There were certain parts of being raised Catholic that I think made me a slightly more human person.
Right,
But
yeah.
Overall, there was a lot of hogwash that went.
Yeah.
The
Well, the
so You got to
commandments-
balance it out.
I have to go to the Catholic church every Christmas Eve, and I feel literally as I walk in this anxiety. I just immediately start twitching and but I can't. It's just
Is there a
it
six,
really
six-
makes me feel just.
Are there
Right.
3 6s in the back of your head?
I think so. I feel like I'm probably the devil.
The
Right.
devil.
Something's happening. Like I'm child.
If we
Really?
shaved
side.
Abby down,
Yeah.
we would not only anger her, but we would find 3 6s.
Oh, my
somewhere
gosh.
on her.
Exactly.
On her
Let's do it.
body.
Let's do it after the show.
Exactly. Mike, I don't know if you had any first thoughts on.
Yeah. I mean, I can sum up Catholic grade school education in a couple words. My Catholic grade school, they actually in the back they had like a livestock area where they.
Wait, where's this going with the sexual education?
No, I'm just I'm just saying they had chickens and ducks and a sheep, and
Do you have a barn?
it wasn't a barn. It was just like an animal coop cage.
Okay.
Was your
And
school a
somehow-
front for some kind of agricultural concern?
somehow when I was in the 6th grade, I got nominated to take care of the animals.
Ooh.
So I got there like a half hour early every morning,
Yep.
and I went and fed the chickens and the ducks
Oh,
and the sheep.
the smell must have been horrible.
It was pretty bad. And then I'd come back to a nun that looked like Allen Hale from Gilligan's Island. And one time I was kind of cracking some jokes, like during class. She pulled me outside, and she's like, "What is your problem?" And I said, "I'm like, sister, I'm just trying to liven it up."
Mike, this is Sister Skipper. You're failing ducks. You're failing feeding the ducks.
Sister, how do you mean it?
Feed the fucking ducks, Mike.
Just feed the ducks.
She said,
Did you go? Listen, sister.
Here,
You
I
gotta-
can sum Catholic education up in one line. She so I said to her, I'm like, I was just having some fun, and she said, life is not fun.
Wow. Oh my God.
And you know what? He took it to heart.
Yeah.
Because if you know
I guess
Mike,
so.
life is not fun.
Yeah, and that's just why it's.
You should have. You know what?
I think something very similar happened to
blame.
Danny when he was. growing up.
should-
He probably had a nun who told him
You
life
should
is
have
not
given
fun.
her the finger right then and there, right there.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
saying this is fun.
Mike has had authority figures telling him what to do.
Oh yeah.
Well, this might be the right time, Mike. You recently had an authority figure in your life tell you to quit comedy. Which
Yes,
is
I
pretty
did
funny.
actually.
And we'll get back to the column in a second. But this was so good, we
Come
have
on.
to share this.
Perhaps
on
the
the podcast.
story. Yeah, I recently just took an improv class with Matt Walsh, who is
Very
one
good.
of the original
Yeah.
Upright Citizens Brigade, and he's on on the show. He owns the fucking theater that I'm taking the class at.
Whoa.
And I don't know, it's weird. Like I had a moment like the first class. For the life of me, and it wasn't just me, it was like the whole class, but for the life of me, I just couldn't get anything going. It was really weird. It's like it got in my head. It's like everything I had learned in improv had just gone out the window, So I was, doing a bad improv scene, like I was denying, I was arguing. It was like everything just awful, like
brother.
the scene could not go worse. I had this one scene with this guy, and it went so fucking sideways that he just stopped us.
Matt Walsh stopped you.
Matt Walsh, he stood up and he's like, guys, stop.
Oh.
And then he's like, sit down. And
Oh.
the man pulled up a chair. He sat down and he's like, I didn't like that scene at all. Oh, no. And then he said, I don't even know where to begin with that. And then he looked at me and he's like, just quit comedy. Move out of LA. And I'm like, but I'm fucking from here. I can't move.
And I remember when you told us that story, Carlos said, what should he have said to Matt
Well,
Walsh?
I told him that he should have said, no, I will never quit comedy.
I'll never quit comedy, Matt Walsh.
Never.
I'll never quit comedy, and I can't move because I'm from here.
Yes. You know what? Actually, the sister was right. Life is not fun.
I know life is not fun, and you should quit comedy.
Yeah.
Well, and then it all fucking flushed back into me at that
Oh.
point. And yes, I realized I was looking at the nun that looked like Allen Hale.
And it was Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh.
And it was Matt Walsh.
Weird.
It all comes full circle sometimes.
Weird. Anyway, I'm glad we got to tell that story because I wanted that on the record somewhere. Danny had a funny line in here where he wrote, you see, I not only thought no meant no. So he's talking about being shy with women.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought no meant rape. Like if you were getting intimate with a girl and she showed the slightest sign of reservation or even began a word with the letter N, it meant you were a rapist who was going to jail and then hell's jail.
That's a bad place.
Now there are some N words though that are good and I wanted to list some of them.
Oh,
That
okay.
are, like if someone
Like,
says nuzzle. That's a good word.
I've
You don't-
never had a girl say nuzzle to
Wait,
me.
this is the guy who used bubbies last week on the
yes.
air. So
Not tits.
Yeah, like the English term for boobs. I mean, but no, like nuzzle.
You think that's
Nuzzle.
proper just because it's
I
English?
got a list. Nuzzle, nibble is nice.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh.
Even Abby's
Nibble's
a great.
bad.
All
mean,
right.
it's like-
Bite.
All right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
Wow.
enough.
Not nibble. Nibble. Ooh.
I will.
Well, nipple might come up. Could hear nipple.
Nipple's good. I like
Could hear
nipple.
Nipple's kind of weird too. It's kind of medical.
Nacho.
Yeah,
Nacho.
Nacho?
Great.
No?
I love nachos.
If I heard nacho.
Taco.
Yeah,
Nacho. Maybe not so
very-
much.
Wait, sorry. If
I'm making out with somebody, I hear
if
the word
you're-
nacho, I get super excited.
Oh.
Like I kick it up a notch.
But if you're having sex with a girl and all of a sudden she just yells out nacho,
oh yeah,
What do you,
really?
Joe, what are
When
you?
would that happen?
I'm kidding.
You're Caligula.
No,
maybe if you're having sex at a Taco Bell, I could see.
That's
but
the-
Oh, I would
not,
love to
not
see
in your
that.
own room.
No.
I can't imagine ever saying nacho,
nacho
during sex
All
ever.
right, fair enough. It's maybe a word I'd like.
Maybe
to
when
hear.
you're married. I'd say,
right.
after
Maybe
like
when
20 years.
when it gets boring with the wife
Yeah.
and we start to bring nacho in.
It happens.
All right, fair enough. I can buy that. Anyway, yes. See, Mike, I was trying to build towards a ridiculous ending. It's part of
Well,
comedy.
Yeah, I think
Just
having
quit, Mike.
Just
Just
quit.
quit.
I think having sex in a Taco Bell would be pretty ridiculous.
It would be pretty
No,
ridiculous.
I don't think so. In Mexico, they do that all the time.
They don't have Taco Bell in Mexico.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They have the Taco University there.
They have. It's just called restaurant.
Restaurant.
Yes, it's just called restaurant. Yeah. Anyway, there was so much with Danny's column this
Well,
week.
I mean, first of all, he's basing this whole thing on The Fountainhead. And for those readers that
Yeah.
haven't read The Fountainhead, there's a very famous scene where Howard Rourke, who is this guy that, he goes against the grain of what society says, which is the promise of the book. But essentially, he rapes this girl.
Yeah, it's a gray.
It's
area.
a very gray area.
Yeah.
She doesn't want it, but she secretly does.
Yeah.
Now, his whole point was, this is an author, Ayn Rand, who is probably one of the most brilliant writers that we've ever seen, but she basically wrote this woman, and Danny described it best as one of the lines. It's the one with the hand,
Yeah. The great.
which, if you can read it, Joe.
Let me see. Let's see. Contrary to my previous experiences with and exposures to the subject, here was a woman who voluntarily wrote sex scenes with women who are treated the same way I treat my hand as a non-compliant lover, rife with contempt, scorn, and shame.
yeah.
Jeez.
But
Yeah.
that was Dominique. That was her character.
Right.
She had no self-esteem.
Right. No, I remember when I had a buddy back in Cleveland who read this book, and he called me because he knew I had read it, and he goes, I just finished that chapter. Was that rape? And I was like, man. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it walks the gray line between.
It's a very
yeah.
gray line, but in the context of the book, it fits with what her character
Right.
stood for, and and eventually, they fell in love and yada yada and everything. That's
Yada,
Yeah.
yada. Okay.
Now I feel guilty as Danny's older brother that he had to find out a lot about this stuff in college. I really should have given him a heads up.
Yes.
a lot of this stuff.
What's the matter with you?
I feel guilty that I had to find out by reading The Fountainhead because that's a pretty
Yeah.
deep book to read.
In all,
you know,
in all fairness,
I mean-
though, I was so sexually like behind the curve that Danny and I probably found out a lot of stuff at the same time.
Oh, really?
Even though he was 6 years younger.
Hey
than I
man,
was.
like I said in the last podcast, I learned all my stuff from Joe Bob Briggs' All Night Drive-In
Yes,
Theater.
That's where you got the verb aardvarking.
Yes, he described what was in each scene,
Yeah.
and aardvarking was one of them.
Yeah.
But I think aardvarking is a great term if you don't want to use like
I
having
kind
sex.
of like that. I kind of like aardvarking. I've never heard it. I think I might add it to my lexicon though.
You
Nice.
should because I think
It's
it's
a good
very
word.
funny. It's like
Yeah.
multiple aardvarking in a movie.
which is solid.
It's very solid.
Better than multiple nacho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
that's fair enough. It does sound better than
I think we
multiple
should
nacho.
put that down as like, but Joe Bob Briggs, man, that guy.
You became a man. Because
You know
of
what he
Joe
said?
Briggs. He made you a man.
You know what he said? When
That
he
was
got-
your bar mitzvah.
He got canceled off the movie channel. He got canceled in his last show. Someone yelled off like, "Hey man, what are you gonna do?" He said, "I'm going to Disneyland." And that was how he ended his show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now there's
What
a guy.
that's a
new-
legend.
New comedy.
Yeah, he's a new. He would just ride off.
Yeah.
Like he just said
He-
it. First thing in his mind.
Matt Walsh would tell him, keep doing comedy and stay
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And great line.
I think
Mike's eyebrow just kind of moved up.
Mike's eyebrow just shot off his face.
that's not possible. Only Carlos's eyebrows can do that because they're so large.
You do. You have
No.
Burt-like eyebrows.
He has Argentinian eyebrows.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's
But-
true.
It's the way I was born.
I think all of us are very unique individuals, and I'll tell you why. Because of when we grew up, all of a sudden there was this huge monster that came out called AIDS, and I still remember the
Yes.
very first day. I was really young, but I remember driving with my dad in his old station wagon. We were going somewhere, and he used to listen to this news station called KNX 1070, which is still around out here
And
in
that's
LA.
when he told you he had.
Oh.
No.
Oh boy. Someone got awkward.
I was listening to the report, and they brought out the first reports of this disease that they didn't know about,
Right.
and they called it like a respiratory thing or whatever. They had no idea.
Believe, and if anybody loves diseases that people don't know about,
Yes.
it's Mike.
Mike.
You love a new disease.
No, I know.
You are all over every new
Yes.
disease that comes out. Like bird flu is big for you.
I
Like,
could
Well,
probably-
yeah, because I try to keep
SARS.
Exactly.
updated. You know?
I could probably make up a disease,
Right.
And it wouldn't even do anything, but it would just sound like very horrible.
Could you
It would
imagine
sound
if they
horrible.
knew about bird flu now and the nuns were trying to get Mike to feed the ducks?
Oh, forget
No
about
way.
it. Forget
No
about
way.
it.
You know, bird flu's not sexy.
It's
I'm just
No.
saying that
Wow.
we're really deviating here.
That's true.
no, but this is that's true. You guys went to bird flu. I'm talking about.
Yo, you went to AIDS.
Oh, yeah,
but then I have
buzzkill,
a
buddy.
point. I have a point.
All right.
We grew up in that time, like where before we had sex, maybe not Carlos, but us,
Right.
before we had
People
sex,
who have sex.
like because we were pretty young,
Right.
like 6th grade, 7th grade,
Having a lot of sex.
when it came out, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
we grew up with this image of like all of a sudden sex brought on this horrible monster.
Right.
So like we grew up in a different time. Like
That's true.
if you were growing up like say in the 60s and you were already having sex,
Right.
okay, and then in the 80s, all right, all this shit came out, but you survived it. You'd have a different outlook on sex anyway.
In the 60s, like, sex was something that happened when a Grateful Dead song came on. It was like, oh.
Yeah, it was like,
yeah.
happy time. Like, you're in a field.
like let's get laid. All right,
Right.
Yeah, sure.
No,
Like,
what else are we going to do?
You know what?
60s?
You know what
No.
the best time was?
1964.
No.
The Beatles arrived.
I heard Crosby one day like saying that he was in this era of music where it was this narrow window between birth control and AIDS, and it was that time where he just screwed like crazy, and because they had birth control, he didn't worry about getting women pregnant. But before it was AIDS, you didn't have to worry about that. So he had this like perfect, iconic
You know what we're talking about, Carlos?
Yeah.
We're talking
sex
about
period.
Talking about the days of yore.
Yes, the days
We have
of
once
yore.
again ventured into the,
The
days of
glory
yore
days.
with
I
Mike
would say now,
Constantini.
most of
Mike
you,
has lured us to the days of
most
yore.
of you listeners, if you can't agree with me that must have been a magical time,
The glory days. That's what Springsteen was saying.
You're crazy of yore.
but that's the thing. We grew up knowing sex as like this dangerous thing because of everything that came out before we started having.
All
it.
right.
So you had to be really careful.
What do you?
I don't know about that. I mean, I understand that, but I don't know if it actually had any real true. I mean, I remember my youth as being fired up with, White Snake videos and like lots of very,
Yeah, me
very
too.
highly
Exactly.
sexualized imagery that
Yeah.
AIDS didn't. I mean, obviously AIDS is always kind of in the back of your mind, but I don't know that it ever factored into any decisions I made sexually.
Yeah.
I still
honest.
think I think all of us have been very careful.
Right. I think I'd agree with that. I think Mike's though is you're real disease conscious.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
think about these things a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, like say if we're having a podcast about sex,
But the reason
then we talk about
But
disease.
disease-
Then we talk about disease for 10 minutes in the middle of our
Yeah.
podcast about sex.
the reason I bring this up,
All I'm saying is that I was fantasizing about Tommy Lee fucking me in the in like
What?
the,
See, now this is
locker
more of what I
room
wanna
of my
hear.
high school.
Oh,
Mike,
This-
And
Mike-
I had nothing. I wasn't worried at all about AIDS.
Nice.
I was just like, Tommy Lee
Who's-
is banging me. I think I wrote a journal entry about it.
Do you have it-
Actually,
do you have it with
somewhere.
you?
I
but
don't
at
have
the
it
same
with
time,
me.
that's like fantasizing about
now
it.
whose hair was longer in that fantasy? Yours or
Probably
Tommy Lee's?
his, because my hair was kind of really bad in high
Really,
school.
yeah.
Like I didn't actually get to have sex in high school because I wasn't very cute.
Right, and you
But
were
I got to fantasize about it with lots of rock stars.
you were in Indiana where they didn't really have they learned about sex later in Indiana. It's not-
It was basketball first.
You know what? That's not
No.
true. Actually, my best friend lost her virginity our freshman year of high school. Like literally a month into freshman year, she just turned 14.
was she the school slut or
No, she really wasn't. I mean, I think she and I both were thought to be the school sluts, even though I was a virgin all through high school.
Right.
But still, you get labeled whatever. I was dyke and then slut. I was both, so I was kind
Wow.
of like doubly hot by LA standards. But in Indiana, that was like
The
like
death
cursive.
knell,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
exactly.
could not
But-
picture you as dyke.
yeah, well, you didn't see me in my athletic days.
Well, tomboyish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tomboyish, but that's not
But
But
dyke.
that's dyke in Indiana.
no?
But anyways, no, she was 14 and she decided, she's like, I'm going to lose my virginity so that if ever I have the opportunity to have sex with Bret Michaels, I can do it and I will not be a virgin. This is how we
That's
conceptualize
great
like,
logic.
So she chooses this guy and she fucks him and then he takes her back to whatever her house afterwards and he calls her and she was like, don't ever call me again.
Oh my goodness!
This is like the first
That-
time she was
that-
like, I don't want to talk to you again. I don't want to see you again. Don't ever call me. This is not a relationship.
wow.
So this is I was sort of introduced to sex in this very cavalier way by my
Yeah.
best friend,
She
who
was-
was like,
she was the
just like,
first- she was the
first
first-
time, and she's like, "Fuck you, I don't want to do
Yeah.
it again.
Lucky
Stay away."
guy.
Yeah, who's the guy who won that lottery?
Yeah,
I don't know.
really.
She just talked about how I wore high karate.
How old
Was he the bus driver?
teacher?
Who was he? A teacher? Yeah.
Oh, he was 16 or something.
And he wore high karate. That's
Yeah,
stealing
and-
out of your
and he had a
dad's.
ferret too.
Oh my god! Did he have
Whoa,
a
dude.
mustache? Did he have a
Was he
mustache?
destined?
I think he did.
Oh, I knew it. I
Is
knew
he a
it.
shop teacher now?
He's probably in jail
Yeah, I was gonna say, you just painted a
for like
beautiful,
meth dealing or something.
beautiful picture. I'm never around when the girl goes, "I'm gonna have sex now."
No,
what I
you know
mean?
what?
Like,
I never-
when that
yeah,
happens,
yeah,
I'm
me too.
always like, "Oh, Joe was on vacation with his family." When,
No, okay, or like me, I was reading a book.
yeah, I was reading a book in my room and not at that party.
No.
Yeah,
No, it never
I'm
happens.
never around when that light goes off.
Oh, what's
Yeah.
going on?
You're not there for the super bad moment.
I'm not there for the super bad. I'm not there for
Jesus.
or even the Juno moment.
Oh.
I miss all those moments, unfortunately.
Darn it.
And that's okay. I have no regrets.
Joe, no,
I'm all
calm
right.
down.
No, I'm all
Calm
right.
down.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Are you crying? Oh
no,
my gosh.
no, not crying.
All right. Oh, boy.
So we get to the nut of Danny's column, which was asking the question of women: How shall I fuck thee? Which I thought was great, and I'm just gonna read this because I think it's one of the best written paragraphs I've ever read. Shall I fuck thee tenderly, like cottony field rabbits in the lazy summertime windswept wheat?
No.
Or shall I fuck thee like a
What?
drunk biker in a shit house?
Huh?
Like a strong natural force, like a hairy animal? I'm going to finish up so Abby can follow up.
Sometimes.
What? Jesus.
Well, yeah,
Nice.
because it is man's it's biological, right? We are definitely beasts, and sometimes you want.
Well, we could be tender, too.
right?
We can be tender, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I just wanted to share. I just
Not
want to share my
animal.
thoughts.
Well,
That's for all you Valentine's people out there today.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Danny inspired me to think back to my first sexual moment.
my- no.
And I'll share this with you. The first time I made sweet love, it was like sliding down a rainbow into a pot of tender, dewy gold.
Dewy.
What?
Yes.
What was the smell of that place?
It was beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
It was beautiful. But the
You
first time I made hard love, it was like dominating my cousins at a game of Stratego.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Stratego.
I'm
Wow.
all
You
kinds
really
of-
Those
had
are
you.
interesting metaphors.
I'm
Yeah.
all kinds of screwed up. What can you say?
You outwitted her? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yes, I found her bomb. I found her bombs with my miner.
Oh, okay.
And I was
all right.
able to outwit her. No, I love Danny's paragraph that he wrote there. It was really funny, and it made me think that I don't know, the best and this doesn't have to do with sex either, but the best moments in a relationship come when you kind of just improvise and use your environment and have fun with the moment. You know, like that's like the smartest thing you can do in any situation.
Yeah,
I
like
agree.
spontaneous sex is probably the best, right?
Anything that becomes predictable.
Right.
Bad.
Is bad.
Yeah,
Even if it's good, it's bad at some point. Like you could be mechanically perfect, but if it's predictable,
Yeah.
like he's going to be licking my box for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And then he's going to come up to the boobs. He's going to do a little bit of work there for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Then he's going to, like if you can predict sort of the
You know.
pattern within, then it's the time is short. It's about to end.
Well, that's like porn, really. Kind of.
And that's
It's true.
that's the sad downfall, I think, to like a lot of relationships is that, like, you can only have sex so many times without it becoming predictable, and that's probably why marriage is kind of a dying institution these days, and a lot of relationships just don't last.
Oh.
Man. Now,
and diseases.
thank you, Carlos.
Yeah.
Speaking
Well,
on behalf of
the
Mike.
diseases.
No more diseases. No more. If there is no more disease
I was
talk today.
responding to a
no.
particular line that
No
Danny was
more
writing.
disease talk today. We've got a girl here talking
Jeez.
about having sex with Brett Michaels.
know.
She's talking about licking.
No, it was not. I just want to clarify. It was never my fantasy to have sex
Well, it was
with
Tommy-
Brett Michaels.
Tommy Lee.
Never.
Tommy
Lee.
Tommy
So,
Lee.
yeah.
Tommy Lee,
Didn't mean
yes.
to cry. Sorry.
Who now?
I don't even know. Like,
Striper.
now it's like real.
What?
Like, when you get older, you're just like, famous people, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
They're
But
not real. Like, I guess maybe Viggo Mortensen, but only in the movie Walk on
A
the Moon
lot
when he was
of
with
women
Diane
like him,
Lane.
yeah.
Like, he doesn't look as good in anything else, but in that movie, he's pretty hot and pretty sexy.
Yeah, a lot of women like him now. I keep hearing his name.
It's because he was in Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not why I like him. I liked him
Yeah.
from that movie.
Actually, it's funny.
Do you find hobbits attractive?
Oh God.
Oh, brother.
No, not really.
Really?
Good
I
answer.
would have never thought that. I would have said. I would have thought you would say yes.
You don't like men with feet? With
I was gonna say
hair
that
on both sides of their
mainly,
feet?
mainly it's the foot thing.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
I know a guy with hobbit feet.
Oh,
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Did your friend screw him?
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
Oh, dude, I knew it. What town are you come
Wow.
from?
No, this is an LA guy. He lives here.
He used to live in the Shire, but then he moved here. So,
It figures. Yeah.
wow, man, he's got some stories for the Shire.
He's gonna be next week's guest, right?
We'll be next. I want to have the Hobbit on.
Yes.
I want LA Hobbit in
LA
here
Hobbit, right.
next week.
Yes.
Next week, Master Carlos.
Yeah. Yes.
Are we going pimping tonight?
Oh, we are.
Oh, great.
We're gonna have a grand old time.
Yeah,
We're gonna relive the days of yore.
Oh, the days of like the Shire.
The shop.
Very nice. And I love Danny's column this week. It's great. And then also, it's funny that we had Abby on this week, for she posted a great blog on her MySpace site.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Abby's list of 15 things every woman wishes her man knew. And these are all good. But one of them jumps off the page, which is if you want us to come to your house, ask us explicitly.
Yeah, that one.
Which is so
Yeah, man.
that's on my part hard fought knowledge.
No, serious. That was like that is a big one because people they'll do think this.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, so, where do you live?
Right.
And like this, you'll be in Hollywood. You'll say, I live in the Valley. That's pretty far.
Oh, where
Well, I'm like, oh well, where do you live?
Right.
I live wherever, somewhere closer,
Right.
not far. Okay.
Right. We should go to your place to save gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's exactly like, what do you
$3.45 a
want?
gallon.
Well, we should go to your house right now and just
Right.
fucking just do it. Just like I'm totally turned on just because of that. That was a great.
Really?
Right.
You got to be because it's like the thing is it's like I even said in my blog. It's like even if you're not really ready to go to the house, it's still sort of a
it's a
turn on to
compliment.
be asked.
It's nice
and
to be asked.
It does lead to from personal experience. It can lead to masturbation at home, fantasizing about that person for the next time.
Right.
But you got to ask. You got to ask
do
for
have
what
to
you
ask.
want.
That's a very good point. And then you put in here, we don't invite ourselves. And, I've always had this like fantasy of somebody who did invite themselves. Like I would love that if someone just did like the what do you call that? Like a booty call without your consent. That would be great.
Hey.
just show up. Like that's
Hey,
fantastic.
life is not good.
No, it's actually.
Fun. Life is not fun.
Or fun.
Carlos
Life
for
is
the
not
callback
fun.
of the night.
But it's my cousin actually made my 22-year-old cousin who just graduated from college. He made this really good point. He was like, I used to go out to these parties and I had this friend and he would always be like, man, we're just going to play it cool. We're going to play it cool and everybody's going to get laid. If we just play it cool, everybody will get laid.
Everybody.
And he was like, and he would be like, no, man, that is not how it works. You've got to fucking make a pitch. You've got to make the sale and you have
Yes.
to close the deal.
Yeah.
Nobody gets laid. Play playing it cool.
No, that's so funny.
Oh my
if
God.
everyone
Like
just
from the
stands,
mouths of babes.
if everyone just stands against the wall with a beer and chills.
Yeah.
We're all gonna
We're
get
all gonna
laid.
get
I
laid. Just
love
play
it.
it cool, man. Girls like the cool guy.
I would just love it if he goes, "You mean even Jeff or something?"
Yeah,
Even
yeah. Jeff's like pushing his glasses up his nose, like even me. I can go laid.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Really laid back. What? Oh man,
I like-
I wish that worked.
number 6. There was a line of number 6 that kind of.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's-
is this a true story? 'Cause
This,
I-
yeah, it is a true story.
Come on.
Yeah, I had an experience where
What?
the guy was like, we're getting ready to have sex, and he literally says, "Are you ready for some big dick in you?" Like, and to be honest, it's like you're kind of like, I'm thinking, oh well, it's okay. This is funny. It's going to be funny. So
Yeah.
we can roll with it being funny. But he was serious, and so at one point we were sort of stopped. We sort of had stopped. We were getting ready to start up again, and I just go thinking, because I hadn't figured out yet that he was taking it very seriously.
Right.
So like thinking that it's funny, I just gotta go, prepare for re-entry, and he was just like totally flummoxed. He was like, what? Like just like didn't. At that point, it just was like
You're making a mockery
Wow.
of
exactly. Right.
our love making.
Right, he was.
How dare
serious.
you?
He was serious. He thought that like,
wa-
are you ready for some big dick in you? Was a line.
He wanted
of,
you to
like,
physically prepare yourself for
his-
big dick.
yeah, his big
He
dick.
warned you. You can't sue him.
Right.
You can't.
No.
He did warn you.
Right. You could have, if it would have been bad, you could have always, like 20 minutes later, been like, "Yeah, I'm ready."
Oh.
Oh
perfect.
snap! Burn. Take that.
Was he big? Is that what?
He was pretty big, but I mean, that's.
But were you-
I don't care if you're a fucking 11-inch cock. You never say, "Are
Wow.
you ready?"
Here's the
for
thing,
some
though.
Big
I mean,
dick
but
in
all
you?
in all
That's fucking
fairness,
gay.
were you ready?
I was ready.
All right,
I was
all right.
fucking ready. I'm not, I'm not
So-
faulting him there. I'm just saying that line.
He should have
at all
known you were
times-
ready.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
You
He
know
should
what?
have, exactly.
If I had an 11-inch, I would say that. So I would have to. Come on, 11 inches? Were you crazy?
Yeah.
You'd kill a
You wouldn't have to
person.
say anything though. You would just,
Well, on the same note, I mean, whenever women are like, "Oh, your dick is so big," half the time they're really kind of just stroking your ego, because most dicks are about within a range that's about the same
well,
average.
well,
Sometimes
yeah.
you get a micro penis, but
What? Oh, is that happening?
I've once.
Oh,
the
Hobbit,
micro-penis
not
ones.
Hobbit guy.
No, it wasn't a hobbit. It was an average sized man.
Average,
Just his penis was micro.
He's gonna
What,
be. He's
what
gonna,
would a hobbit size be?
Well,
It would
I
be,
mean,
it would
really.
be
Yes,
furry. It would be furry all
more.
around and be well intentioned and good
Yes.
manners. So, and I think I don't think any woman would be ready for it.
No.
That's a case where you have to ask, "Are you ready for some
For
hobbit dick?"
Oh
And then you have to be
my
like,
gosh.
"Wow, am I ready?"
Let me think about this.
Yeah, let me think about.
You'd be
this.
thinking about it, 45 minutes later
Right.
when he's showered and done and out the door, because
Right.
you'd never felt it.
It's true. The little hobbit.
Like, did we just screw or what?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
That's gotta be
know.
the
I
worst
can't
case where you don't
remember.
even know.
Yeah.
It's like you
Yes.
turn up pregnant and you're like, but I haven't had sex.
Aw, so sad. Oh man, well, good stuff. Good job, Dan,
Jeez.
to inspire lots of good commentary. I enjoyed this one.
I love it.
Yeah, it was good. It was good Valentine's Day fodder, and yeah, it was good times. Yeah, I think we're about that time now. I think we're gonna go around the room and bust out the should I stretch, Mike? And
what?
We're going to
Juice.
get to the aftermath. There.
Oh, there we go.
Right. The iPod is. I got a new iPod this week, so we'll transfer.
Well, you
Your
did.
iPod, there's like a 40-second delay.
Yeah,
Like when you hit play, it's like 40 seconds later it decides to actually
it's a little
play.
it's a little cantankerous. We'll start where we always do, in the deepest part of the room, the Constantini corner.
Oh.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Well, if we can keep the disease talk to a minimum, I
No
really
diseases.
Say-
appreciate
hey,
it.
Mike.
There's a reason I brought that up.
Hey, Mike, say it. Are you ready for some?
Are you ready
Some
for
HIV?
some big disease?
Come on.
Are you ready for some big disease?
No, your brother mentioned that he was raised Catholic, and
Yes.
and he had that line through that confluence of behavioral influences. I became such a bizarrely frightened and sexually anxious person, and to me, it's like, yeah, like, once all that disease, came out, if you went through Catholic school, they taught you basically that, like if you have sex like unprotected and like out of marriage, that's where it's all going to lead. So I mean, at least for me, when I was a kid, I had this ingrained in me, and growing up, I missed out on a million miles of fun, because this is like the stuff that I had taught to me,
Right.
Only later, I realized, oh, it's actually fun. but no one should have to go through that. Now, that whole point leads me to this. Organized religion, it really kind of sucks because it's really done nothing to benefit mankind. Copernicus was almost burned at the stake for believing that we are not the center of the universe. And he actually died before he was put to death by the church. And it took the Catholic Church 300 years to apologize for that because he was actually right. Now, the Catholic Church says that, all of us are born with sin. And what does that do to, self-image? And it does nothing for it, and that is Dominique. That was from the Fountainhead. She had a horrible self-image, and look at the unhappiness it brought her. Even in the end, she finally found happiness, but it took her a long road to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where this whole article is coming from.
Someday I'm going to debate you on whether religion's ever done anything good, because it has done some things good, but I don't want to get into it right now.
Fine.
But I will debate you on that.
Yep.
Mr. Carlos.
Wow. I don't know. I can't even top that. But let's see. Actually, I want to agree. I kind of agree with Mike on that. But the whole thing is that sex is it's a beautiful thing, and I think sometimes it's I always think that in our society it's always the preacher and the pornographer always need each other. Like you need.
That's a good point.
Like the preacher always like the conservatives,
like the rhinoceros and the little bird that lives in the rhinoceros.
Yes,
okay.
It's like that. So it's always like they need each other. Like one has to be the two extremes fighting each other, and everybody has to decide whether to agree on whichever point. So if one is going to be for celibacy, that's fine. But of course they got the anxiety, got fear, all these things build up. While people who use sex are basically just using it as more of a tool instead of something that
sure
should be
right, should be, something that should be sacred or something that it's fine, your business, but it takes like pornography is one of those things where it's like, oh wow, it's taboo, but some things are just taken way out of
I think most people get it right.
Yeah,
it's just at the extremes you have people who get it wrong.
So and of course that's all just because it's conservative against like the whole nature of being in porn and being in the doing all those things for money in a sense.
Sure.
But it's kind of sucks that both ends. Sex is the one that actually
they get the
falls.
most attention, which is
right.
unfortunate.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what it is.
I think it's a good point, Carlos.
Yeah, agree.
Abby.
Well, I almost adding a little bit to what you were just saying, Carlos, and I think too that porn is sort of fucked up ideas for both men and women, because I think women, where men obviously, I think it's more obvious the way that maybe it changes the way men think about sex, but for women, it sort of creates these ideas of what you have to be in order to be sexy, and it's not at all connected to what is actually pleasurable for women. Most porn, there may be a very small percentage of women who that is what they would want, what they would desire, but the reality is that most women, that's not anything at all what they want, but many women will still kind of behave in ways that they think men will desire them more because they want to be viewed as sexy. And I think that's been a great negative for women that's come out of porn in terms of that I don't think gets talked about a lot.
Yeah. Right. Well, porn is real predictable. And what's not is how individuals act, which is actually way more sexier when you have somebody that you want to be with. And
if you ever compare, you could always see the older porn, like done in the 70s, was a little bit more, it seemed more real.
Right.
You could always see it.
It was more like how real people really
well,
had
even
sex.
just bottom, like even just the physicalities of the porn
and the hair.
Didn't have.
Exactly. And the mustaches.
The hair and the mustaches are more real.
Nowadays, it's like
true.
It's like machines.
It's like
why is porn so related to mustaches? I just
that's a great column, actually. I'm going to write about that.
But you ever wonder, like, what about a mustache like makes you think?
Because it's masculinity. And
2 words: Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, buddy.
Tom Selleck is pretty hot.
Yeah, there you go.
If I'm at a bar and I'm talking to a girl and things are flagging, I stick my index finger under
really?
my nose like this.
Really?
I pretend I have a mustache.
You do that, and we stay cool. We're gonna get.
We're gonna stay cool. We're gonna get laid, buddy.
Even
me.
Jeff, you too.
All right.
Well, one other thing I would say too, just since this like the overhanging question title of this essay is "How shall I fuck thee?" and it's obviously from a male perspective. I almost would say too, you kind of have to answer like the question on both sides. Like as a man, like what kind of sex do you like to have, and find the woman who's compatible, because sex is always like about really compatibility, and like someone who might really suck for you might be great for somebody else.
Right.
And so as much as how shall I fuck thee? Well, how do you want to be fucked? Go find the woman who does it.
So
like
the
that.
so the answer is, how shall I fuck thee? I will fuck thee the way thine wants to fuck thou.
Right.
Basically,
Precisely.
Yeah,
you wanna
that's a
relate
really
to
good
it
answer
as
to
a-
that question. That's a
Yeah.
really good answer.
Maybe we should be Shakespearean about everything and just
Yes.
The days,
Yes.
the days of your.
How shall I deflower thee? Yeah, exactly. Abby, I'm so glad you answered that question because I feel like we have a little bit of closure now. I
Fine,
almost don't want to add my final thought, but I will.
Oh.
And I want to, someday I'm going to invent doing it nacho style, and you're not going to
Nice.
laugh at me anymore. People are going to say they did it nacho style.
I will laugh at you because it would
Nice.
only exist in a Taco Bell.
It's going to involve sour cream and tomatoes. That'll be the supreme nacho.
I can't
style.
wait.
Thank you. See, Carlos.
I can't wait. For that.
can't wait. Anyway,
Maybe it's because I'm a little hungry,
it could be because it's around a little bit after.
and
dinner
with all
time.
this sex talk, I don't
Right.
know.
You got your hunger stirred up.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, before we take off, we want to thank our guest Abby Kincaid for coming.
Yes.
Abby is a super busy, cool individual. Abby, why don't you tell us a little bit about all the things you got going on?
Well, like I said, I have my band Penny Relentless. You can check us out online at both www.pennyrelentless.com and at myspace.com/Penny Relentless. I also am one of the co-founders for this nonprofit group called iHeart, and basically what we do is we make things and we sell them and we donate money. And the one thing that our first project was a calendar for 2008, which is available still for purchase. I realize it's already February.
It's a great calendar.
But it's a
Yeah.
bunch of hot
Guys out there,
indie
it's-
rock chicks. I'm in it. I'm posing with a pie. A couple of my really good friends are in it. And,
Nice.
it's great. It's a 40s style pinup calendar. And like I said, all the proceeds will be donated to charity. And you can find that at www.myspace.com/iHeartIndieRock is our website. Or you can just link to it through my sites too. So, and we're about ready to have a blog off too, which we're just sort of developing. You guys can
Cool.
all participate. You can participate in the iHeart blog off. We're gonna have to we're kind of developing it, but that's kind of one of the projects we're
That
working
sounds
on,
really
as well as
fun.
the calendar for 2009. So
We'll do that. Yeah, very
So-
good. Excellent. Well, Abby, thanks for coming on the show.
thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
Yeah, no problem. And Mike and Carlos, thank you. We'll have Sean back soon.
Who?
Yeah, I know.
He hasn't been here
Sean,
for
no,
weeks.
Sean had a good excuse this week, so we excused him. And otherwise, if you want to read the column, check out joedonatelli.com, and we'll talk to you next week.